slots all the way. And I feel like our first matchup is also going to be very good for that because we have a NASL or Bust against Heavy Metal Gundam here, two very, very strong teams.
Yeah, absolutely excited to see these two go at it. Definitely some squads that we should be pretty familiar with if we've been staying tuned to the NASL scene over the last couple of seasons. And I'm always happy to see my guys Borg and Mystic on here, usually on the mic with me when I happen to be here for a NASL, but always good to see them on my screen as well if they can't be in here with me.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're looking at the game itself, right? We're on Taiko Temple. It's gonna be very like KO heavy as a base map, but we have Sparkle Resilience and Orb Replicator, which don't really enable that type of gameplay. So I'm curious to see how much of a KO playstyle we'll be seeing, or if we're just gonna go devolve down into pure like control gameplay here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to check on out here is, of course, that heavily prioritized now coming in for Hungry Boy. Tragic holding it down on the Atlas, but losing the pressure war early on as the special becomes available for Borg first. Able to use that Oni's Blade to keep the pressure up and get both of the barriers down early, but Zay finds an opening at the top. Merchant can't reach it on the Luna, and the first goal will go over to Heavy Metal Gundam.
And this is gonna be the stronger part of that team comp for Heavy Metal Gundam because they're a lot more consistent in the way they can perform. They have a lockdown goalie in Atlas that's gonna do so well at just holding down the defense. Denal's gonna do a lot of work in the midfield area, and Erasmus has a lot of playmaking potential as well. Whereas the side of NASL or Bust has a bit more scaling to them, right? This Luna needs to get online a bit. So these early points I feel like are gonna be expected to go in favor of Heavy Metal Gundam here.
That should be the expectation. They nearly snuck it away the first time, but again, there's a Blabo missing from Mystic, so going to end up coming on through, but there is the Crater out of Merchant, going to be able to find that KO. A power play now available here for the squad. NASL or Bust trying to push it into the goal. Borg not quite able to find it home, but off the drums, Hungry Boy not quite succeeding in clearing it out. Borg with a slashing strike, catches it midair, right into the goal there, and we're tied up at 1-1.
An excellent read from Borg there to actually catch that clear, knowing that the only reasonable clear for Tragic to do there is going to be towards the bottom. And just the very tip of the passive is enough to actually put it in there. Great equalizer.
Really good stuff to keep things tied up, although there's going to be a barrier taken incredibly early once again. It's difficult for these Lunas to keep both of them standing. Borg with the energy burst available though. Pendulum Swing trying to brawl it out with Mystic. Is going to be able to jump over the center to continue to receive these passes. Merchant coming out of the goal arc to be able to get up towards that goal once again. And with double burst available, big opportunity for an aggressive play from Borg and Mystic. Borg might just do it on his own, though. Tragic forced to use the flip to get it out of his face, but still the pressure is not relenting. Mystic's got it, Borg's got it, trying to step forward with the slice and dice. Not going to quite brand it with the rush either, but Mystic waiting at midfield. It gets passed up to Tragic, bouncing it back and forth with Zay, but Borg sets it up, gets in there with the flick, and right into the goal, 2-1. Early lead for Bust.
Who else but Borg to show us the Borg flip in full effect? A nice fake out there, not giving Tragic the choice to help defend there, and excellent execution.
Definitely want to hope for out of Borg if he's going to be piloting the Zentaro here. Back on Brawler after a little bit of a stint on midfield last time he was in NASL. Very happy to see him piloting his Zentaros once again. Hungry Boy, though, with a big shot from up on the top. Merchant can't get to it in time, and again, taking full advantage of that Luna and her long cooldowns.
Yeah, but as it is right now, it's important that the goal was found for the side of Heavy Metal Gundam. However, they have a huge energy disadvantage here as both Borg and Mystic have a flip available, and Merchant has his soon as well. So it's still very much an uphill battle if they want to take this first set, which comes a little bit as a surprise to me personally, I won't lie.
Yeah, the energy economy has been really good for NASL or Bust. They just haven't ended up needing to use the bursts to be able to find themselves these goals and find themselves these barriers. Now it might be a bit of an exception as Borg finds himself staggered. Got to make sure to not get KO'd with that burst available. Merchant steps up, passes it to Borg into another burst into that barrier. It opens up the goal, but it does cost Borg his life for the time being. 8 seconds of power play now for Heavy Metal Gundam to try to open up the goal in their own right. Nice block by Merchant, though, hanging on to it for now. Going to be able to negate the Death's Touch using that flip as well. Zay Forever just can't get a hold of the core, and Borg is now back up here to be able to duel with them. Still, nice hold from Zay, preventing things from getting past midfield. Finally, Borg going to be able to take back control using that Oni's Blade to hold on towards it, but Zay trying to take it back on towards the left. Tragic uses that strike shot to try to keep things cleared on out. Core starting to get fast as we get into overtime, though, and it just shoots right between them. Cosmic expands from Tragic is too little, too late, and that's a set win for NASL or bust.
And it's a huge set win as well, because we're on a Spark start, right? All of NASL or Bust have chosen Sparks as their awakening, and you can see it here. The Spark stacking will start to come through as well now, as Merchant is going to be able to pick up that Spark of Strength to give more survivability with HP, and more importantly, more damage output as well. Other than that, the prime time on now is going to be a solid pickup, going to have a lot more primaries to be working with, a lot more annoyance to be working with, and the Stagger Swagger is going to help Zay stay on the map. But overall, I feel like these awakenings are very beneficial for most of these. I was saying all of them, but then Prize Fighter had to be taken away off of Borg. Prize Fighter Atlas, obviously not necessarily the best, but Twin Drive, Super Surge on the side of Mystic and Borg, I feel like NASL or Bust is incredibly happy with what they were able to pick up here.
Yeah, and you wonder if the deny is even that effective when Super Surge still ends up coming through, or the Zentaro, really powerful to get those dash buffs on towards this character, and already using them to full effect. Both barriers fall, and it's just been so difficult for Tragic to hold on to these in the first 15-ish seconds. Such explosive starts out of NASL or Bust, as they do manage to hold on to the goal itself for the time being, but how long will that stay true? Using the drums to full effectiveness, getting things cleared on out, and keeping it out of the hands of Zay forever. Borg with the flip, and Borg into the goal, and another one in a row for NASL or Bust.
You could really see the great positioning from NASL or Bust, because they're suffocating the defense from Tragic so well. Borg covering any kind of cross clear, while Mystic applies pressure with Juno and those Blobos across a longer distance. And to add on top of that, obviously Merchant on the Luna pick with the eject button will be able to assist a bit as well in either damage output or just core force. So very difficult task ahead of Tragic here, and there needs to be I think they need to kind of find a different approach maybe of how they want to be defending their side here if they don't want to get overrun.
Once again, just pinning it behind the barriers there into Oni's blade. Ricochets down towards the bottom, and Borg comes up with both barriers in one go. Mystic and Merchant losing control of it a little bit there, though. Ends up getting an own barrier, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe some interruption there from Zay Forever, who's now on a bit of a breakaway. Has access to the energy burst. Hungry Boy about to have his as well. Trying to ricochet off the top, but Zay Forever's got it held onto. Deflected away by Merchant twice in a row, and he hangs on from the goal.
Oh.
Tragic can't get to the core in time. Borg steals one away out of nothing and takes NASL or Bust to 2-0 in set number 2.
Tragic mistiming that strike shot is not what you want to be seeing in this position now. 2-0 up in favor of NASL or Bust, as they're trying to close off this set as soon as possible, not trying to have it go to a set of 0.5 like they did last time.
I mean, the defense has been almost non-existent throughout this game at number 1 so far, it feels like, as these have been falling down so fast, so many quick goals, so many quick barriers achieved, and open goals nearly consistently across the board here on Taiko Temple. Hungry Boy gets the flip, and this time nobody able to produce the block in time. The Blobo's a little too short, and it will be a goal and a break in the streak as Heavy Metal Gundam get their first of the set.
Yeah, the defense isn't holding up long, and on the side of Merchant, you would be kind of expecting it, right? The Luna is not necessarily going to be the best at holding it down on the defensive end, but Tragic is the one that needs to be trying to find a maybe a little bit more optimized way of using those abilities, because these barriers should not be dropping as fast as they are.
Yeah, definitely looking to see a little more defense here from both sides, perhaps, but NASL or Bust definitely been the recipients of the most benefit here as they find themselves in a nice lead and potentially going to take a 2-0 set lead if they're able to find one more goal here. That's a nice open goal achieved, though. Zay Forever off the flip, going to be able to find his way onto the second barrier, and a 2-barrier advantage makes Heavy Metal Gundam look favored in this round. He passing it back up to Zay. Mystic trying to steal it away. Here comes Merchant getting involved, trying to get the header into the barrier, but won't quite be able to find it. Mystic continuing with the reset, but a nicely placed drone from Hungry Boy will get things back into Zay's hand, and a pendulum swing into the goal will tie us up as Heavy Metal Gundam make the reverse sweep and bring us to point number 5.
Point number 5 again. Last time it went in favor of NASL or Bust. We'll see if Heavy Metal Gundam can change it this time around, as they seem to be getting a bit of more of a groove, and they find ways of attacking and taking these barriers so efficiently while holding on to the defense now a bit more. So hopefully they can hold on to this form and take home the set.
Nice crater there. They fight it over towards the right side. Going to be able to use then that blast to get onto the barriers. There goes the second open goal. Mystic on top or on bottom. but without access to the flips, will be hard to make a big explosive play. Hungry Boy waiting up on the top with the energy burst of their own. Merchant gets involved, though. There's the flip they were looking for, deflected back away by Hungry Boy, as energy burst go on now for every member of both teams. Mystic finds it off the drum, not quite at the right angle, gonna get astrally projected back away by Tragic, as Borg fighting onto the bottom side. Zay gets a shot up towards one of the barriers, gonna be able to claim that for his side. Still an advantage for NASL or Bust, though, as they move it back over to Mystic. Hungry Boy gonna be able to sneak it past him, pressuring Merchant on towards this top barrier. Zay manages to find its way through. He's got access to the flip, stepping right up to Merchant, off the wall, into the goal. Heavy Metal Gundam tie us up at 1-1.
Great execution on the attack. They're not really giving Merchant much to do and just kind of overwhelming the defense there. So really good setup as we're now going into this draft, and we have 2 sparks here, and that's, you hate to see that if you're Heavy Metal Gundam, because Luna is actually the first pick on the side of NASL or Bust. You cannot deny both of these sparks, so Luna's gonna go triple spark guaranteed here as the build different find its way onto Rasmus, though. Size always incredible, and to be honest, you have rapid fire prime time on now as well, so these primaries are going to be flying out so much. These cooldowns are going to be so low for the now in the grand scheme of things. Cooldowns going lower for Mystic as well, as he's able to pick up the reverberation. A second spark for Borg, and I feel like the most important pickup here could arguably be the missile prop on Atlas, because that's going to help so much with holding the defense further up the field and making it easier for Tragic to work this Atlas.
Can find his mark on those astral projections, really will be able to give pressure from further away even when that strike shot isn't available. KO on a Mystic found out of nowhere. I think that was a pendulum swing out of Zay Forever. We'll give a power play over to Heavy Metal Gundam. Find one of those barriers up in Merchant's face, who's going to try to take it around. Can't quite find it with the boost, but will be able to claim one. Mystic now going to fill in his sub-goalie, but can't defend the barrier. Open goal achieved for Heavy Metal Gundam. Merchant just back in time to be able to reflect the goal and prevent it from actually coming on through, but the pressure is not done yet, and they're going to get it back over to Borg. Moving forward, the Onis played a nice flip right in melee range, takes Hungry Boy low and nearly gets the core in. Going to interrupt that Death's Touch as they manage to knock it back away with a Blavo. Mystic getting involved now, as is Merchant, coming in with a boost, but still not able to push it past Hungry Boy. Coming down from Mystic up on the top side, now into Zay's hands, who's going to have it fought back away by Mystic. Tragic waiting with the energy burst available and with all of his tools up, and Merchant is not back with the eject button in time. It's Heavy Metal Gundam on the board first.
Yeah, we went into overtime, and the core's just going to start flying a lot faster. It's going to be a lot more difficult to control, and it's going to be so much more punishing if your eject button isn't necessarily exactly where it needs to be. Merchant, unfortunately, having to experience that there as the goal was being found.
Good. Keep reflecting away as long as they can here, but been a really good comeback so far from Heavy Metal Gundam, really finding ways to keep things safer for longer as Tragic scales into the game a little bit more, has access to some more tools, some additional range, and that seems to have been the recipe that they needed to be able to avoid some of these more explosive starts out of Bust. So far holding on very effectively. Dueling in midfield starting to become a little bit more of the name of the game over the course of this game. And number one, Merchant, though, continuing to get out of the goal arc, trying to get involved in some of these trades up the face of the other team, but still not finding barriers, at least in this round. Mystic trying to fall back. He's a little bit late as well. The core has snuck past him and find the first barrier. Merchant stepping up to try to be aggressive once again, but Tragic is holding things down excellently with Hungry Boy at his back. They can't get the core past. A nice bounce shot to get onto the barrier. Hungry Boy resetting it over. Zay in wait as Merchant keeps it up towards the top. Mystic and Borg just not getting involved yet. Finally able to get it into their hands to move it back on over towards the barriers. Borg stepping up. Slashing Strike doesn't connect onto the core. Damage onto Tragic and Hungry Boy, but not enough to make any difference. Cosmic Intervention letting them stay topped off, and that barrier will stay standing. Resources blown for the side of NASL or Bust, but they do manage to sneak it through thanks to the drums, and a well-positioned Oni's Blade will sneak it in for Borg.
They get the goal, they even out the set, and they also have a flip available from Mystic, so NASL or Bust can definitely play off of that energy advantage on the midfield role there and maybe try to get the core over to the other side to get a barrier down. But as it stands right now, the cores are actually going to be more on their defensive end as the first barrier does drop.
And Merchant going to be able to sneak one over for his side as well, and Borg just continuing to try to brute force it with this slashing strike. Hungry Boy and Tragic have gotten a lot better at responding to that as the game has gone. As Zay flips it right in front of the goal, will be deflected back away by Mystic, trying to get things into an offensive position. Once again, Borg a little bit low on stagger, but still feeling confident in his ability to try to push it through for at least the barrier into the Oni's blade, deflected away by that Cosmic Expanse. Still not quite able to find their way past Tragic here. A flip from Mystic, a pass to Borg, deflected away by Zay Forever, who's trying to reset for his own offensive moves. It still feels like NASL or Bust just really struggling to be able to get back in and push past Tragic when he gets down to one barrier. The Cosmic Expanse has been so effective here so far.
Yeah, the abilities have been used so well to hold off of these attacks, not giving that last barrier, and it's so difficult to get that last barrier off of an Atlas. As you can see, Borg and Mystic just continuously try to get the attack going, but they can't quite find the angle. Flip has to come out from Tragic to defend there, actually, but he does find it.
Yeah, and they do get the barrier there, so it's open goals for both sides now. Whammy not quite connecting on through, but Merchant going to try to buy some time so that Mystic and Borg can fall back into position. Pendulum swing finds Mystic in the goal arc and creates a power play for Heavy Metal Gundam. Merchant and Borg now looking to try to buy as much time as they can. Don't want to hang out too much on the same side, but risk getting passed on and taken into the goal. Zay Forever capitalizes on the moment and takes it to 2-1.
Capitalized just in time as well, as the third player for the side of NASL or Bust just came back, but wasn't really able to do anything anymore about that attack. The Luna ultimate comes down though and almost takes Zay out of commission completely.
Yeah, really could have potentially created the opening that NASL or Bust need to go to a third 0.5, but not gonna find it on that move. Instead, they continue to duke it out at midfield, trying to get some pressure into their favor. Merchant not able to get the ricochet he wanted off the drum, still can't get it in towards the barriers. And fighting back and forth now are Zay up against the duo of Borg and Mystic. Zay starting to fall a little bit low, gonna have to go elusive to try to avoid Borg getting onto him with the rush and potentially taking him up on the top side. A lot of healing coming on across though from those double supports on his team. Healing available on both of those characters, trying to go for the ricochet off the bottom. A nice quick strike in towards the barrier. Gonna open up the goal for the side of NASL or Bust. A rush forward from Borg. The flip available, used by Tragic first to clear things out, but Borg's still ready for it. Still not going to use the burst to try to get it on past. That flip is going to stay in his pocket for the time being. Hungry Boy trying to close things out right now. Uses a flip of their own, won't be able to push it in past the barrier. Bounce shot off the bottom, deflected back away again. Zay Forever gets it back onto the offense, takes down the barrier, and finds that third goal. 2-1. Heavy Metal Gundam find themselves in the lead.
And what an incredible defense that was from Tragic. I was almost completely certain that that goal was going to go in, but they're actually holding on and have to use the flip to defend it, but successfully do so and take home this set now as we're going into this third draft with, again, a lot of high-value awakenings. The fight or flight is going to help Hungry Boy so much with being mobile, being ever-present, making this now even more annoying. Deadeye is going to be a beautiful pickup for Merchant, just even more damage on the Luna as more size finds its way into Zay. The Adrenaline Rush is going to be a pickup for Atlas as well, potentially a deny pick off of the Centauro. It gives you 1 second as well. Not sure if you're going to find those KOs overall, but I definitely feel like you got to watch out now for Merchant and that damage that the Luna can bring out. However, who are you really going to be killing, right? Zay has Stagger Swagger and 2 healers right behind him, and the Now and the Atlas are not going to be easy targets to take out either.
Yeah, and going to have to find their way on towards Hungry Boy or Tragic, you gotta believe. But yeah, as you said, damage awakenings on towards every member of NASL or Bust. Clearly seeing KOs as their potential pathway out of this situation, but both barriers fall pretty quickly. An opportunity for Heavy Metal Gundam to be able to take the lead in what could be their final set of game number 1. Zay Forever trying to take it on past Mystic. Mystic going to be able to just hold things on with the Blobos. Whammy connects, and Crater, rather, actually gets a fair bit of damage there. Zay does find himself staggered, gets healed right back up in an instant, but Borg able to use that opportunity to dash in and get that barrier down. Open goals for both sides. Borg with an opportunity, and he doesn't even need to touch it. Tragic doesn't reach the core in time, and that goal credit goes to Mystic.
Yeah, those bounces off the middle, you're not necessarily expecting them, and sometimes they can catch you off guard as they did Tragic this time. And the energy economy also looks very heavily in favor of the side of NASL or Bust here, so we'll see if they can lead this momentum that they got here into another set win.
To find out, plenty more to play for in this game number 1. NASL or Bust not saying die yet. Merchant pushing it onto the bottom. Zay Forever and Hungry Boy able to just force it past these weaker characters, though. Merchant without too many blocking resources once the cooldowns are down, definitely at risk of just getting it pushed right past them. And not going to be able to hold on forever. Here's Zay finally going to be able to find the strike through to get it on towards the barrier. Now looking in for the goal, and Merchant's strike is not back up yet. A brute force play from Hungry Boy and Zay Forever. They just get it on in there.
Yeah, and this now is just turning into such a menace in that midfield position, right? Low cooldowns on the primary, fight or flight making her ever-presence as well. Hungry Boy doing such a good job and trying to hold off the attack before it even starts by being so active in the midfield, and there's been a lot of success being found there, but the attack is actually being found from NASL or Bust to take both the barriers.
Nice slashing strike from Borg, just takes it through all three members and gets it onto the second barrier to open up the goal and try to take the lead back over here for NASL or Bust in the set. Borg sneaks it on past Tragic, waiting inside the goal arc. They're going to need to try to find a moment where he can't get to it, find him on the opposite side. Instead, though, it's an aggression from Zay Forever, finding the goal arc empty and finding the barrier once again. The backup here from the Blabo is going to be the only thing that saves an additional goal from coming on through, but that might be the moment and the opportunity that they need. Flip forced out of Tragic as Borg goes into the Oni's play, trying to push it back over into that goal. Another slashing strike connects on through. Borg waiting on towards the bottom, trying to get it on through, but going to sneak on past him, and Zay waiting with the pendulum swing, finds its mark and takes them to game point.
Excellent timing there to confirm the goal without having to use his flip on his own there. So now they can go into this potential last point with a flip on the Rasmus as well. So if they're gonna have difficulties trying to take these barriers, they can use it. Zay uses it early there though and doesn't quite fight the value he wants. But where did Hungry Boy go?
I mean, that's a massive crater out of Merchant combined with some damage from the teammates, and it turns out they can find KOs. It just needs to be the right mix of opportunities, and this power play getting carried on through. Hungry Boy is respawned now. He's lost out on both barriers, and they are going to try to close out the point right here, but that's a KO right back onto Borg, catching him on the wrong side of the Cosmic Expanse and taking down the Brawler from NASL or Bust. The power plays now here in Heavy Metal Gundam's side, but they've yet to be able to capitalize. They don't take a single barrier before Borg is able to respawn, and now they're right back where they left off, using that extra dash power to get right into the face of Tragic, but not quite able to finish off the job yet. Mystic, pass received from Merchant over to Borg, going into the Oni's blade. Merchant coming in from the top side, can't use the flip in time, but will be able to keep up on the defense. Mystic now trying to receive, trying to get it back over to his boy Borg, but the opportunities not yet happening. Another crater, another KO, and a goal for Borg and co. NASL or Bust get themselves to 0.5 yet again.
Yeah, these craters are giving so much value for the side of NASL or Bust, finding KOs after KOs. If they can continue walking with that heavy value in that ability, maybe they can find themselves another set win here and force a set 5.
That's what they're hoping for. Merchant coming in off the top rope once again, but the flip will come through from Hungry Boy. Able to keep that defense going. This is a big crater, though. Hungry Boy staggered. Doesn't fall this time, but definitely at risk without the Celestial intervention from Tragic to be able to keep him standing. Nice defense on the barrier there. Tragic finding a good back strike to be able to reflect it back away and find a bounce that he finds favorable. Still nobody falling on down Zay. Very close here as the core does find itself stalled in the bottom side. Sneaking it back away from the expanse. Another crater gets Zay low again. Merchant not quite landing the boost, though. Going to stop that core from careening on through, but they still find both barriers, and Borg, with the flip available, uses it into the dash, deflected away by Zay Forever, who will still be able to hold on for now and keep their hopes of being able to win the game on this set alive. Borg was taken out on the other side, and it's a power play for Heavy Metal Gundam, still with a chance to close the game, but look at that whammy, just carrying them that extra bit further and creating a power play now for NASL or Bust. Waiting with the crater, Merchant finds home and takes us to set number 5.
Merchant just having a masterclass on the defense. They're using abilities excellently to hold off the core and still find KOs, and in the end with the Crater Maker also finds the goal in the end, and the extra special is gonna make this Luna so much more deadly, as now on each round start she's gonna have the potential to just take someone off if they do not have an evade. They need to pay the evade tax to even play the game at this point. As another Size Awakening finds its way onto Zay, this Rasmus also massive right now, making it so much more difficult to win Strike War against him, but you can just take him off the map with the Luna. Monumentalist, also an incredible pickup for Hungry Boy though, giving him so much more area to affect efficiently in that midfield area. So we'll see how this is going to pan out, because both sides got some really high value awakenings here.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about if that crater can keep having these sorts of impacts. The elusives come through once again. They're going to be forced out each and every time. At this point, Zay getting that extra life from the recovery drone as well might just be a big difference maker, as him getting KO'd has been a huge win con over on the side of an NASL or bust. Borg continuing to layer down a little bit of damage, getting himself repositioned, and a nice slashing strike to pick that core out of the air, nearly getting it on towards the second barrier. Not going to quite finish it up this time. Slice and Dice connects onto all three, though, and Mystic bouncing it between his Blabos back over to himself, keeping the pressure going. Finds it. Big damage onto the entire squad, and an energy burst as well. Oni's blade to cap it off. And Hungry Boy going to be low and caught up on the top side. Mystic hanging on alongside Merchant. They are going to be able to take one of those barriers. Hungry Boy continuing to get pressured on the other side from Merchant as the boost connects. Going to get bailed out using the specials out of both him and Tragic to keep the health bar topped off. Borg not quite able to pick up on the core using that rush, but Merchant coming on through to make up the difference. Back over to Borg. A shot attempt from Mystic, but Zay's able to hold on. He reflects it back away. Getting on over towards the left side now. Trying to get onto the last remaining barrier, but Borg reflects it up towards the top. Merchant waiting for it. Not quite able to get the strike that he was looking for, but able to click back to the eject button in time to be able to cover that remaining barrier. Still pressure on from Zay, but so far not able to find a hole in the armor. But Borg bounces it off the bottom, trying to get set up for another shot. Tragic able to hold on yet again. The Atlas starting to look impenetrable yet again here, Slough.
Yeah, it's just so insane. Neither team's giving each other even an inch here as the core's going back and forth and the defense is holding up so well. Tragic's under pressure again, has to use a flip, will defend it successfully though as the core goes back to Merchant. Mystic has a flip of his own as well. Doesn't even have to use it though as the Juno Bubbles find the angle right past Hungry Boy and Tragic to take what seemed like a almost 5-minute long point. Wasn't, but it felt like it in favor of NASL or bust.
What a reflection there off of the bottom. Bouncing it up along that wall the entire way through and finding its way into the goal, and the aggression right where it left off here for the side of NASL or bust. They get their first of their barriers, and it's the second one that has been tough for them, but they get it right there. Borg with a flip right in their face, can't get the empowered strike off before the gates open up, so not going to be able to get himself on towards game point yet. Very close to it though. Mystic waiting up on the top side. Puts it down towards Borg on the bottom. Zay gonna be able to use the whiplash to get himself on over towards the first of the barriers. Drone waiting for the core onto the bottom side, gonna get consumed by Borg instead, who takes a shot in the bottom corner. Tragic already using the expanse, not covering the goal entirely, and Borg finds the one hole.
And that was such a tight angle to be finding for Borg there, because any kind of misalignment there either sends it towards the edge of the map where it just bounces back at you or directly into the Atlas expanse. So excellent angle from Borg there as NASL or bust are trying to set themselves up to just take the set 3-0 and take the first game.
Look at that damage too. Whammy's coming on through and Oni's blade onto the full squad. Already staggered is Zay forever, and yeah, you know, they're going to be able to heal back up before too long, but going to mean that they have to step away for at least a short bit. They can't just unrelentingly keep pushing for more and more. Another expanse going to be used. Here comes that blast from the crater. Merchant still helping on out at range. Another header comes on through, going to be able to find that barrier. Open goal now available, and Borg is in there. Finds the rush, finds the score, and game number one will go to NASL or bust.
Yeah, towards the end, they just got so incredibly oppressive with that damage, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, right? You have a really great team comp for surviving on the side of Heavy Metal Gundam, but it ended up just being too much. That Deadeye pickup for Merchant ended up being too much, and you can see that in the damage numbers as well. 51k damage off of Merchant, 61k damage off of Borg. Yes, in total there were only 4 KOs, but it's so difficult to play for core and contest the proper areas if you're consistently low, and that was the result of that damage. It wasn't taking out the team outright, it was just disallowing them from playing where they want to be playing, and just with extended pressure there, they ended up cracking the walls of Tragic there and take the first game.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. You know, it started off looking really favored towards NASL or bust. Heavy Metal Gundam finding a lot of angles to be able to play through in that mid-game, looking like they were going to be able to turn it back around, but finding new ways to be able to push on through those craters in set number 4 out of Merchant. Absolutely crucial, and then being able to find KOs and find ways to close the game out, and then the cooldown getting even lower enabled NASL or bust to be able to take it the last way home.
Yeah, and they took the game off of Taiko, and more importantly, they took the game off of Taiko, which was the map pick from Heavy Metal Gundam, I believe. So now they're going to go into the next map, which is going to be the Atlab, which is the map pick for NASL or Bust. So they're going into where they're potentially more comfortable overall. And we'll see if there's maybe going to be some draft adjustments from either of the teams here, if there's going to be any kind of plans going in as well. The Zentaro seem to be doing wonders for Borg. I'm curious if maybe the side of Heavy Metal Gundam are going to be looking to interrupt that pick, maybe take it away, or if there's a completely different prio going into this game too.
Yeah, that's going to be the question. There could definitely be a change up in composition when you're on Atlas's lab compared to Tycho Temple. Maybe a little bit of shifting around of what the picks are going to end up being, and maybe a little bit of shifting around based on how that game number one played out. I mean, it is. I've been told it's a little bit more of a melee goalie meta these days, but Merchant showing up on the Luna looking really good in that game number one. Not sure where exactly in the draft it ended up falling, but I do wonder if some additional precautions will be taken to try to stop that pick from making a difference for Merchant this time around.
Yeah, and generally speaking, eject button goalies, right? They're not necessarily favored. You're very correct in that, but there are certain maps where you can still bring them out and have that effect. And Atlab is a map where you could be playing an eject goalie as well. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see that come out again as well. Maybe there's going to be a Luna again. Maybe there's going to be something like an Aimi. Not 100% certain on the certain on the map pool choice for Merchant, but it opens up a lot of avenues on this Atlab game. As I do believe we see the updated
This is the
draft
game
on
one
stream right
draft.
now. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Luna was first pick. We can see that now. Atlas was last pick, and flanking the double midfielders coming through, or the midfielder forwards from that from both teams there. So we will see. I mean, first pick going to go over to Heavy Metal Gundam this time around, so a chance to be able to start the draft on their own terms, take a high prio pick. I mean, they were the ones who ended up with the now, which feels like it's so universally good right now. So we'll see if it's just going to be a first pick on that one and maybe drifting towards a similar comp, or if we might see a ban away from it. There's a lot of questions to be answered by this ban phase.
Yeah, and the awakenings they don't really give me a clear picture either of where the priorities are going to be because reverberation is just a solid pickup for basically any character, right? Some survivability, some cooldown reduction is always going to be great. And the siege machine obviously just kind of comes into play if you're playing something with creations, right? If you are playing like something like an Atlas maybe or something like a Rune or Juno, it's all possible, but they're not really like insanely good for any of those characters. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of reverberation coming through, and maybe the draft is going to adjust to that. However, Atlab is also a map that still can get KOs in even if it's more defensive start. As we see two brawlers actually being banned out, this Taro being taken away from Borg now, and Asler Busta answering with an Asher ban.
Yeah, first pick Vice as well coming out of Heavy Metal Gundam. So we're going to see something a little bit different. It's going to be Luna plus Rune as the selections from NASL or Bust. I'm going to assume that's going to be Mystic's Rune, most likely, and a run back of that Luna in the goal arc.
Yeah, I'm gonna be curious how well these two characters will work together. They don't really seem to align themselves in my head in terms of playstyle, but we'll see how it pans out as the side of NASL or Boss is just going full on damage with Finny, Vice, and Rasmus. Rasmus gonna be like here in a position of finishing off a KO, and Vice and Finny just continuously dumping on the enemy. So we'll see how well that's gonna be working as the Julie is the last pickup for NASL or Boss, just being more solid up front, being that force as well, and especially if you're going what I will assume up against what I will assume a Finny, having that solid dash punch is going to do wonders for you on the attacks.
Yeah, I mean, definitely going to give you some of that additional power if you're going to go for the Rasmus Brawler once again. Really will give you a little bit of that KO potential alongside the Death Touch of the Pendulum Swing if it is what you end up going for, especially with the Vice as well, who I assume is going to be rocking the goal, although I guess it could be Finny in the goal as well, depending on what their preference is going to be here. The Rune, though, certainly going to be in the midfield here for the side of Nassel or Bust. And Borg busted on old school Juliet here, try to take them that last bit of the way through. Really heavy damage composition, it feels like, from the side of Nassel or Bust in this game number two.
Yeah, most definitely. They don't have a lot of control features, right? The Vice specifically, in my eyes, is a very damage-focused character and just doesn't really have the tools to get involved on the control side as much as other characters will be able to. So I do feel like that's going to be the game plan for the side of Heavy Metal Gundam, to go for damage. And on the other hand, obviously Luna and Rune with Siege Machine, that damage is not to be underestimated either. That can actually be quite a bit of force as well if those pillars are coming out over and over again for the side of NASL or Bust. So we'll see how the KOs are going to go in this game as we're now loading in and getting ready for the second game of the series.
Yeah, going to be a fun one for sure as we get loaded on up. Excited to see Mystic on this Rune. Not a pick I've seen out of him a whole bunch historically. See how he's going to be able to perform on it this time. Certainly the reverberations start across the board for all 6 players in this game, so not going to get anything too spicy. No Siege Machine desires to be found from anybody. Going to be early barrier take for the side of Heavy Metal Gundam, but nothing too explosive yet. Dash punch through from Borg on the Juliet. It does look like we've got character names here for both Borg and Mystic, but just keep in mind who that is. Borg, Mystic, and into the goal there for Tragic, at least on my side.
Yeah, the funny little spectator bug will not leave us, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll see both sides playing it out here as well. The barrier's not really staying alive for very long, as Atlas's lab is not the easiest map to defend those barriers on as well, especially if you have coordinated attacks as both of these teams are doing here. Also, interesting observation, as Borg opted to go Vicious Vambrace here, wanting to prefer that survivability after so much damage is going to be dumped into him by this Vice and this Finii. So we'll see how much effect that'll have as the first goal actually goes in favor of Heavy Metal Gundam.
Yeah, definitely. So good start here. There's going to be nice early advantage given on over towards the side of Heavy Metal Gundam as they find themselves just a little bit further ahead. Going to still be a nice banish coming on through to find its way on towards Say Forever. He nearly gets taken down for that one, but instead going to find his way back onto the field, still getting pressured on by Borg, and double burst gonna take him down. Merchant and Borg join forces to be able to get Zay Forever right off the map here. See if they're going to be able to recover from this hungry boy. Going to be receiving it at midfield. Going to try to keep the pressure on. Going to try to buy that extra time for Zay Forever to be able to respawn. And you know what? It's going to end up being enough here. But the banish coming on through finds its mark on towards Tragic. Buys that extra moment for them to be able to get their way on towards the barriers. Juliet taking it forward. It's Borg looking to take it into the goal. Can't quite find the dash punch here yet. It will get successfully cleared on out, and now it's Zay with the pendulum swing trying to find himself an opportunity, but a KO found on the other side will create a power play for NASL or Bust. Another barrier does end up falling. It's Zay Forever moving forward towards the right once again, but it's Borg dribbling it to himself and pushing it into the goal to tie things up at 1-1.
Yeah, and even though we're looking at the team comps, and I would say Heavy Metal Gundam is favored if it comes to KOing, while NASL or Bust is actually the team that finds these KOs a little bit more consistently here, off of the edges, off of that Luna that Merchant is piloting so well as well here, and Mystic doing an excellent job cutting off any kind of passing play for the side of Heavy Metal Gundam. So a very excellent execution for the side of a NASL or Bust so far, as they are looking to take a second goal here.
Look to see. Oh, wow, it just slips right on through. Borg able to find it up against Tragic, just a little bit too slow on the strike there. And it will be a 2-1 advantage for NASL or Bust. Let's see if they can find their way back around this one as it kicks on off, and immediately it's one barrier, and it's looking like it's about to be two as Merchant arrives off the boost. Here comes the Crater coming in the middle of everybody, going to force those elusives on out, and now going to move it back around. A nice double barrier found by Zay Forever here. Try to move things back into his favor, but he's KO'd by Borg. Flame Flurry for the dribble, trying to get it into Merchant's hands, not quite able to get the timing right, but a nice anomaly from Mystic sets up for another strike. Going to far out that banish, but not able to find its mark. Nice elusive away from Zay, going to keep him out of the field, but the dash punch off of the pass from Merchant is beautiful. That's 3-1 for NASL or Bust.
3-1, and going into this draft with a priority pick for this Julie here. as Juliet will enjoy quite a bit of awakenings here. We have a 1-2 punch on the field. We're interested to see if Borg is going to be opting in for that, because it's just going to give that Julie so much more KO range when it comes down to dash punching. Could also be Might of the Colossus, as it would be a solid delay off of Zay, but no, the 1-2 punch holds too much value as the size finds its way onto the Rasmus. Twin Drive, a solid pickup for Merchant. You saw how much effort, how much work he's been doing up front as well with these dashes just on that last goal. So having more of those is going to work wonders for him. As the prime time, the prize fighter and the Castle Ass get picked up as well in this draft. More damage going towards the side of NASL or bust here. So the KOs, I don't think, are going to slow down anytime soon.
I do not think so either. Oh, going to be another aggressive start here. Oh, not quite able to find the barrier. There is Ol Hungry Boy, or Zay Forever rather, not quite able to get it there off the death touch. Instead, right in between the lines, and so instead we'll end up with 2 barriers going on over to NASL or bust. It's going to be Mystic carrying it on towards the bottom, trying to get it into Borg's hands. A nice flip back away, though. They think they've isolated Borg here, staying alive as long as he can, but the death touch from Zay Forever will be able to create a power play for Heavy Metal Gundam as they look to get themselves onto the board the first time in a while in this game number 2. He's going to be pushing on in here, seeing if Zay could get onto that barrier, but Merchant is holding down the line pretty effectively. Mystic at a sliver of HP, but still managing to hold on, avoiding the stagger. Dodges out on the death touch as well. Merchant nearly able to weave his way through to find it into the goal, but Core is kept at bay. Zay waiting for another opportunity to use the pendulum swing combo alongside Hungry Boy, pressuring on towards this barrier. Still held on to, though. Borg helping out on defense. Even with Mystic down, they can't find their way on towards this last barrier.
Yeah, excellent strikes just being found off of Merchant and Borg there, as in the end, though, Zay says it's enough now, uses the flip and slides it right in as the goal is opening. Well executed there, but still an insane defense from the side of NASL or bust.
Really, really good defense, and holding on for as long as they could, and you know, just an incredible bounce there on the opening up goal. You got to give it to them for that angle to be able to bounce it right in at the first possible moment off of taking down that barrier finally. And now Borg nearly going to be KO'd off the top side. Hungry Boy waiting, channeling the Supernova. Not quite able to find it, but the KO onto Borg does come through regardless. Merchant going to get backed up by the Cosmic Anomaly coming through from Mystic to try to hang on towards this barrier. It's Hungry Boy and Zay Forever keeping the pressure on 2 fronts, but still not able to break their way on through. Instead, Merchant going to take it back over onto an aggressive angle. Still can't get out of that barrier for himself, but still able to hold on to buy enough time for Borg to be able to respawn. Now taking down towards the bottom. Hungry Boy nearly taken out. Hungry Boy will be taken out, and it will be a numbers advantage back over to NASL or bust. Let's see if they're going to be able to close this one out in the 5 seconds they need. Merchant taking a long time to get back over to the core. Really effective clear buys them the time to get Hungry Boy back on towards the map. Now Zay pushing forward, and big Supernova finds the KO on a Mystic, creates the opening that they need to get the goal, and there's the shot from Hungry Boy to take it up to 2-0.
It goes from power play to power play as both teams are trying to get the final push through, and as of right now, Heavy Metal Gundam are finding these angles a little bit better when they have the man advantage. They find the clears to just steal time off of NASL or bust when the enemy side is on a power play. So they're executing it well, and the damage is continuing to roll through. As you can see, the evades are just almost non-existent on the side of NASL or bust now, so they kind of just have to tank everything being thrown at them. As a Crater Maker, though, will actually find the KO and now power play in favor of NASL or bust here. Can they find the goal? No, the defense is holding on.
Very, very close, but no cigar this time around. Merchant going to move it around towards the top. The respawn has already come on through, and they are back at full strength on the side of Heavy Metal Gundam. Now another KO found by Borg, though, and despite that energy economy you called out earlier, it's KOs repeatedly coming through for NASL or bust. But will they be able to turn it into the goal? Will they be able to take it down to that last bit? So far, it has been tough for him, and once again, the power play isn't enough. Merchant off the center just gets it onto his own barrier. A little bit of an oopsie there, and an open goal now for Heavy Metal Gundam to try to take a 3-0 set after getting taken out in set number 1 to tie things up. Back into Borg's hands, the reflect off of Finii, not quite enough to take it into the goal. Avoids the own goal there, instead gets the bounce back into their team. There's Merchant putting it in position, and Borg catches it off the dash. It's a point over to NASL or bust.
Very funny interaction there, as Borg is actually just trying to dash punch into Tragic to deny him any kind of defensive maneuver there, but just tanks the primary and gets realigned into the core. So different kind of outcome, or different kind of intention, but it still gets the same outcome. So hey, it's 2-1 now, and NASL or bust are looking to even this out to a 2-2.
They are pressuring up towards the top. Borg, a really well-placed anomaly from Mystic, going to find its way to be able to keep up the pressure and get them onto that barrier. Merchant slides through with the strike, not able to get it onto it though, and now going to get the pressure on towards the double barrier out of Zay Forever. Low on stagger, but got what he came here for. Now needs to make sure to not get taken out by Borg, who's fishing around for a dash punch, and the pass on through. The block reflected back by Zay, who picks on up the point and takes the set for Heavy Metal Gundam.
And Zay also gets the first pick. Together with the Might of the Colossus, you would be hoping for some kind of size awakening, and you have Recovery Drone. However, you also have Sparky Resilience, you have Fight or Flight, you have some other high-value awakenings here, so curious to see where he's going to be opting on for. He goes for the Sparky Resilience, gives himself that potential to start scaling with Sparks, and get that survivability more crucially, as the extra special will find its way onto Merchant yet again. Missile propulsion going to do a lot of work for Hungry Boy, because you also saw a lot of these primary lightnings do so much work on the offense. They're just kind of hitting the core in a weird angle where the defense can't really adjust to it well. Fight or Flight being an excellent pickup for Mystic to help with that mobility. Borg getting a speed spark as well to contest the sparks further down the line for Zay, as we're now going into this third set of the second game.
Ooh, Hungry Boy with a nice supernova into their own strike to be able to get onto that barrier. Borg low on stagger now, at risk of getting taken out. A nice power chord out of Hungry Boy takes a Borg off the bottom and entirely out of the play as Zay Forever comes in and finds the score. Another quick point over to Heavy Metal Gundam, who've been on a tear since set number 2.
They keep on finding these double barriers, right? Being able to get it through the back there and get the angle to take the second as well, and that's going to be so much. That's just so much value in an attack like that, especially if you're going up against something like the Luna that's not going to be thriving specifically on an open goal. So a lot of value for them to be found there, as the attack is being built for NASL or bust again, and to get the first barrier of this point.
Oh, and just bouncing Borg around here, taking him out of the play nearly entirely, as Tragic just holding down on this last remaining barrier so effectively and creating that little bit of extra pressure thanks to the triple take, thanks to that misdirection. Still not quite able to find its way on towards the remaining barrier on either side. There's going to be Merchant sliding on through, trying to find it with the boost. The triple take once again, keeping that pressure on, keeping that core where they want it. KO found onto Zay, though. Borg and Mystic now with a chance to try to make a difference. Here's the Flame Flurry up into Merchant, who takes the strike down on towards the barrier, and Mystic trying to take that shot on through. Banish does connect onto the goalie. Death Touch finds its way onto Borg. Borg is KO'd, and it is a power play back over to Heavy Metal Gundam as they look to take themselves up to 2-0 in the set. Waiting for the respawn, though. Merchant's been able to clear it out and buy some of that extra time that they need. Borg coming in with the respawn right now. Merchant passes it on down towards Mystic. The last barrier remains standing. Supernova to try to clear out a little bit of space, but the barrier is still there, and the core has not arrived yet. Now passing it on down is Borg. Try to create a little bit of an opportunity. Fire Punch does not connect in the direction that they want. Merchant slides on through, and there's the dash from Borg into the goal to tie things up at 1-1.
They get stunned from Merchant as well. This allowed Tragic from throwing a primary towards Borg to disrupt the setup as they find the goal. Excellent execution for the side of NASL or bust.
Really good stuff here, as they are going to need to try to pull this one back into their favor. They've tied it up now, and the game is fully tied across the board. One barrier about to fall. Nice shot from Borg there that they're not able to get Tragic back towards in time. Tragic now going to lose both of those barriers. An opportunity to score once again available for NASL or bust. There's going to be a Crater coming on through, going to get dodged on away from by Hungry Boy. Keeps the pressure in towards the bottom. Passed up. Merchant deflects it yet again to himself, using the boost to be able to receive his own pass, but pushed through by Hungry Boy to be able to take that barrier. Steal away from Zay Forever now. Pendulum swing to try to clear a path on towards the core, but it's Mystic moving it forward. That's sent back away by the Finii. Tons of damage comes through on the board. Can't quite connect to that punch, but the Banish at max range finds its way on a Hungry Boy who cannot support Tragic. Point goes over to NASL or bust.
Tragic took a little bit too close of a step to the core there and gets stunned by the flip from Borg, which gives him just a free angle to take home the point there. as they take a 2-1 lead in this current set, and they want to be taking the set overall as they already take his barrier almost immediately off of kickoff.
A really nice whammy there as well, just kind of interrupting a strike war and winning it for the side of NASL or Bust, but now caught inside the big finish. Finii going to nearly be the difference maker there. Tragic trying to get his way on towards the barrier, trying to help out the same way the Merchant's been helping out on this Luna all series long, but falling back too late as the second barrier does fall. And it's an open goal for Heavy Metal Gundam to try to take this one to a point number 5. Borg has something else to say, though. Goes in for the dash punch, not quite able to get it onto the barrier. Merchant doing his best to fend off Zay Forever, who's still advancing forward. Thunderstruck nearly finds its way on towards the core and keeps Mystic low, who's got to avoid this upcoming power chord. It could be at risk of getting taken down, does evade the stagger in time, steal away another one of those orbs, keep himself standing. Borg now waiting here with backup from Mystic to try to move in on towards the barrier. Merchant doesn't get in time to block that one. A little too early on the boost, so we will go to point number 5.
Another point number 5. We've seen plenty of those before. They ended up going either way. In terms of energy, there's also a slight favor for the side of Heavy Metal Gundam, but they need to actually make use of these flips once they have them. And so far, they didn't even need to use them, actually, as both teams will just find a barrier clean.
Yeah, really nice start there from both sides to be able to get that one onto the board. Zay going to use their flip and will be able to get onto the barrier. The Supernova, you just can't respond to it. Down a member, and it will be the set going over to Heavy Metal Gundam in 3-2 fashion. They have one more set win now to take us to game number 3.
And they also will have a Deadeye Finii, which is going to do so much more damage. And on top of that, will also deny the Deadeye off of Merchant. So this Finii is going to turn into an even bigger damage menace as the rest of the draft will be panning out. Rasmus will have a lot of high-value awakenings here as well with the Spark, or just straight-up size as well. Obviously, the Might of the Colossus will help in terms of damage with that. As the second Spark finds its way onto Borg. Stagger Swagger for Merchant, giving that extra bit of survivability and denying it off of Hungry Boy. So Hungry Boy has... I guess has to settle with an adrenaline rush. Oh no.
Well, you know, maybe not exactly what Hungry Boy was looking for, but could very well end up paying off in certain scenarios. You know, Supernova's done some work already. Nice knockback away, though, from the whammy. Still pressure unrelenting from Heavy Metal Gundam. They do manage to find themselves both barriers very early here, and it's Borg taken completely out of the play, but the double barrier is responded to. Mystic finding his angle. Borg not retreating no matter how staggered he gets. Nearly able to find the goal. It's open goals for both sides now. Zay Forever, though, in such a strong position. Knocked back away by the power chord. Finally an orb to be able to get him back into competition for Borg. The pressure is still coming through. It's now Mystic who is in danger. Borg supernova'd off. And a flip out of Mystic is not going to be enough to find its way on towards the goal. Merchant and Mystic now doing their best to hang on. One more boost. Sorut's got to hit it on the bottom, and he can't get to it in time. It's another score over to Heavy Metal Gundam.
And you just saw so much damage being pumped out there for the side of Heavy Metal Gundam. This Deadeye Finii doing so much work, and after they found the KO, Hungry Boy gets the Adrenaline Rush proc, which just gives him so much more mobility, and again, all the cooldowns in the world to just continue damage dumping. As one barrier falls, the second one's going with a Sad Boys angle, though, as now the barriers are evened out, and Borg's almost been taken off the map again. There's just so much damage flying towards the side of NASL or Bust here.
Absolutely is, and again, it's Borg who's taken kind of out of the play before it can truly get started, and now they're just going to bully him, try to keep him at bay the whole way long. They will be able to find the KO. They did lose a barrier for it. See if Mystic and Merchant can put themselves together some kind of scoring angle, or can at least buy enough time. Nice anomaly, reflecting multiple shots. Merchant takes a shot on the goal, not quite finding it, but the crater will get a positive ricochet back over in towards Borg's face. Vanish not going to connect on anybody. They're still trying to defend. Nice save in the last possible second from Tragic. Hangs on for just a little bit longer, and that might be the difference maker, as Zay is now well postured to be able to move in towards the goal. Merchant still keeping defense up on towards that last remaining barrier. Staggers on both of his teammates as he tries to hold on single-handedly. The dash punch from Borg connects even with the misdirection out of Tragic, and it's 1-1.
I've seen this one before, right? This is weird that we get it twice in a game, but hey, if it ends up working out, but still, the goal was being found for the side of NASL or bust, but the difficulty still stands. They just have such a tough time staying on the map, and that's how you counteract that, right? You just completely overwhelm the defensive end of Heavy Metal Gundam. But if you can't get the goal, this is going to start to happen again, and the barrier just drops. The goal is being found.
Yeah, it was a nice double barrier early there for NASL or bust, but they blinked, and suddenly everything turns back to Heavy Metal Gundam. They KO Borg off the top, and they take everything in an instant. Crater going to push the board back over towards where they want it, but it's now going to be Hungry Boy waiting right in their face. A quick double barrier. Not going to be able to stop that one with the anomaly. There's the Supernova pushing it right into position for Zay Forever, who's nearly able to close out the game here. They're going to end it right into Hungry Boy and Zay's hands. They push it up into the goal, and they will take us to game number 3.
They found it in the end, find the goals, find the crucial barriers, and executed it so well. That damage towards the end was just way too much to be dealing with for the side of NASL or bust, as they answer the game 1, taking the map off of the NASL or bust. That was NASL or bust's pick as well. But looking at the stats here, you can see again, like 50k damage almost on Hungry Boy, 35k on Zay, 32k on Tragic. That damage just did not stop at any point as they add up to 9 KOs overall.
No, yeah, I mean, really, really well played game there from them. It was a good start for NASL or bust, but then 3 series in a row go over towards the side of Heavy Metal Gundam, and looking way, way better when they've got, you know, these big AoE tools to be able to turn things back to their favor compared to the Now. I mean, the Now, such a strong pick right now, but Hungry Boy looking substantially more helpful on this Vice, really able to keep the pressure on, really able to just take Borg out of the plays very frequently on this Juliet. So maybe that Zentaro ban was the right record here. We'll see if they keep it up.
Yeah, as the last map is going to be Clarion Test Chamber. Obviously, the characters' priorities are going to be a bit different there. I'd be surprised to see something like a Vice come out again for Hungry Boy. Although it's not out of the question, right? There's a lot of Awakenings that would just be straight up incredible on a pick like that, as we do have our Awakenings already for Clarion. Rapid Fire Stinger is going to allow for a lot of KO gameplay here.
Yeah, I mean that's been the name of the game for, it feels like, about a game and a half now. It's been very KO centric, and the Stinger plus the rapid fire here going to be definitely incentivizing that to go a little bit further. I am still curious on the ban plays here. It's been an Asher ban throughout for NASL or bust. They do get first pick now back into their favor. Also curious to see if we do see that Zentaro ban held for Heavy Metal Gundam. It certainly felt like they were able to respond much more effectively to Borg. It's going to be the Atlas ban from NASL or bust. So let's see, are they threatening to take the Asher for themselves?
They could be threatening that pick themselves. No, they're just gonna go for the Luna.
All right.
They looked at how it was being played out so far for Merchant, how the value was being found for him, and they just say, hey, we'll just run it back more than anything. And together with the rapid fire, right? These rockets are gonna come through all the time and gonna be so difficult to be dealing with. But the answer of Zentaro and Estelle is not to be scoffed at either.
Yeah, no, I mean, those piercing shots definitely can give you a lot of power from midfield. And the Zentaro taken away from Borg here. So off of the Rasmus for the first time tonight will be Zay Forever. See if he's going to be able to execute on that as well as he has on the Rasmus through 2 games, because definitely has been a big point of pressure for Heavy Metal Gundam. See what the picks are for NASL or bust. Running back the rune here for Mystic. Liked some of that extra help on defense they were able to get out of the cosmic anomalies, or unstable anomalies, I think is what they're called. But definitely looking to improve on the result they found in game number 2. And let's see what the brawler is going to be for Borg.
Yeah, the rune's gonna have a lot of value together with the rapid fire as well. These unstable anomalies are gonna come out all the time, and this, especially on some maps on Clarion, you have so much value in them, right? If you're looking at the map that's similar to Side Streets, I'm not sure of the proper name, the one with the invisibility zones, just putting down a pillar in there is gonna completely shut that play down, as the Kazan comes out actually for Borg here.
All right, this is Borg's one of the OG Kazans, at least in my mind. He was really, really good on this pick back on last call, his NASL team. That was a huge pick for them when he was playing forward for that team. So really looking forward to what he's going to be able to show us on the Kazan here as the brawler du jour. And Finii looking to round things out in the goal arc once again. Happy with how that Finii performed for them last game. Tragic is looking to run it right back.
Yeah, and all of these characters, they get so much benefit off of that rapid fire. I feel like the weakest one would be Kazan, but even then you get so much out of it because all of these primaries have so
Got
much
some
impact.
primaries.
Either they are incredibly strong when it comes to damage, or they're going to just have an immense amount of core control to them as well. So I feel like this is going to be a very fast-paced game. And again, I the gut feelings telling me we're gonna see a few KOs this game as well. If you're looking at picks like the Luna and the Finii here.
Yeah, I mean, Kazan, Zentaro definitely don't hurt you in that department either. On to Clarion Test Chamber as our decider map, and everything locked in as expected. Would be shocked to see anybody switching up who's in the goal arc or anything from this draft. Estelle making her first appearance on the day, as is Kazan. Love to see some unique drafts here from both sides as they try to adapt to one another's playstyle coming into this final game of the series.
Yeah, and Zay actually picks up the Stinger as well, wants to get some extra damage on those Zentaro abilities and adds the dot to it. We'll see how much that's gonna influence the damage department as we're going into kickoff, and the first barrier immediately gets taken.
Yeah, really good piercing shot, I believe it was, from Hungry Boy. Just ends up pushing it on through and ends up getting it right where they want it. But now going to be a nice bounce here. Good save from the triple take, but Borg is in position. Top spin as well to keep the pressure on. Nearly finds everything in the kitchen sink with that one. Instead, going to have to just settle for the two barriers. Open goal now achieved on the opposite side as well. The additional range available for this Heavy Metal Gundam comp going to certainly be something we are on the lookout for between this Finii and this Estelle. Crystal Thorns keeping the pressure on here. Borg starting to fall pretty low, but wants to move into scoring position regardless. Hungry Boy going to be able to keep things on the aggressive side. Mystic not able to get there in time. Borg trying to dash through, give him the slip, but not quite able to find it. Maddening defense on through. Still can't find his way into Hungry Boy, and Borg's got to watch out with how low this health bar's gotten.
There's just so much damage being dumped into Borg, and he's just going to have to sit there and take it because he does have the slick kicks. He doesn't have anything that's going to help him with survivability, so he's just going to have to deal with it as flips come out left and right. 3 flips in quick succession, and actually Mystic is the one that gets taken out first here as a beautiful save comes out from Tragic right there.
Yeah, I mean, Merchant had a great one too, just timing the whammy with when the strike would come through, but he is 1 versus 3 and cannot get there in time. Hungry Boy waiting with the Crystal Thorns to put it in the net.
So many KOs being found towards the end there, and basically every player's energy just completely reset because all of the flips came out. And if we're looking at a KO game, we are on the KO map for Clarion now, and you can see that SA is almost immediately taken off the map. Borg not quite able to get the kill confirm on that primary there, but Zay is not safe yet as the KO gets found. 1 barrier drops, the second one's surely going to follow suit.
Crooked leverage from Borg, keeping that core right where he wants it, trying to keep the pressure up, but not quite able to find the second barrier, and Mystic is still staggered. No sustain really available for this team composition out of NASL or bust, so they're going to have to either find it early on, or they're just going to have to wait for the old orbs and health regen to make the difference for them. Double banish, pretty good stuff there. Borg looking to capitalize with a maddening descent, but it's dodged away from by Zay forever. He's still going to be looking for these fights. Both these brawlers taking each other to staggered, but neither finding the KO, and it just slides between the uprights there. Merchant and Mystic can't get to the core in time. It's 2-0 for Heavy Metal Gundam.
Both teams just throwing hands continuously. It just comes down to who's going to find the advantage faster, who's going to find these KOs or these forces faster. And so far, Heavy Metal Gundam been the team to do that. But looking at how the game's being played out as well, I'm very much excited to see how this first draft is going to go once this point is over, because there's so many Awakenings that hold so much prio like a Stagger Swagger in a game like this.
Yeah, and that's another KO found on towards Borg. Another power play for Heavy Metal Gundam. Nice passing plays, just up and down, splitting the focus, getting openings on towards the barriers, and they take them both before Borg is able to rejoin. really solid stuff from Heavy Metal Gundam, putting them into a position to be able to potentially take this set in 3-0 fashion. Zay taking it on towards the bottom, passes it over. Hungry Boy is ready for it. Back pass into the Atlas Center. Takes the set for Heavy Metal Gundam.
And takes first pick as well. We'll see what awakenings we're going to be dealing with. A primetime rapid fire would be an insane threat here. Other than that, you have to stagger swagger, you have to stacks on stacks, you have a super surge. There's a lot of damage in this draft yet again, but the primetime rapid fire is not to be given up by Hungry Boy. A lot of piercing shots coming through here as the stacks and stacks finds its way onto Merchant, giving that extra bit of mobility. Stagger swagger gonna help Tragic with staying alive, as the size for Kazan's gonna do a lot of work as well, especially in that 1v1 against Finii. Size is gonna do so much for you. Explosive entrance for Zentaro is nothing to scoff at either, because that's gonna add so much more damage and dash range to Zay.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of additional range. Actually, what does Super Surge even do for Rune?
I'm not quite sure if it does anything really, but I'm not a Rune
last
player. So, what were the last remaining awakenings? Maybe
there
all
was a
three of
cast
them.
to last. That does something.
Oh, yeah. Then I don't know what happened there. Maybe I'm just not a Rune knower.
Huh. All right. Maybe Mystic knows something that we don't know. I'm gonna hope so, because that's an interesting one. I don't know what you would do dash range for on the Rune, but maybe there's some kind of effect that we're not.
It might just be the damage. As Super Surge just does more damage. Maybe those pillars do more damage. That could be the thing that I'm saying.
The ones you leave behind. That would certainly make
damages
sense.
today, but the game so far. So
yeah, I certainly hope so for Mystic's sake, and for our sake. You know, so there's we'll choose to believe that for the time being. Early KO does end up coming through for NASL or bust. They will move on over. It's going to be Mystic waiting on the top side, setting out those anomalies. Borg taken low, trying to get the little poke on in towards that last remaining barrier. Not quite going to be able to find it here. Borg trying to get it onto that last barrier. Still not quite able to find its mark. It's going to be a piercing shot pushed on down. Merchant gets it in towards the bottom. Merchant coming through with the boost. Can not quite find that mark. It is instead going to be caught up inside the big finish. Pushed in towards Merchant. And down towards the bottom yet again. KOs on both sides, no brawlers available. And Mystic actually finds that barrier there. It just kind of scoots past Tragic and finds the open goal. Maddening Descent now clearing a path for Mystic to send it through. And NASL or bust find their first point of game number 3.
yeah, and we're seeing a lot of the character synergy as well, because you see Mystic and Merchant actually, they're coordinating themselves so well, because Mystic goes through with a banish, catches someone, and Merchant just perfectly times the Luna ultimate on top of that as well, which just makes it completely unavoidable, right? It's just going to be such an insane amount of knockback and damage that he can't really be dealing with on the side of Heavy Metal Gundam, so we'll see how much more value that combo is going to be getting, as two flips are on the side of NASL or bust, and Borg, yet again, just kind of fighting for his life at this point.
Yeah, taken out pretty low here. Now going to dash on through, not able to find it. Will be able to get a little bit of damage on his A forever, though. The rush in on towards Mystic's face. Going to chunk him out, but still using the anomalies as effectively as possible, and getting Zay a little bit trapped inside the zone. Big finish here. Borg slides on through with a crooked leverage KO. Hungry Boy now just trying to buy time using their resources. Banish does connect on through. A little bit of a non-bow there, but it doesn't matter. They find the KO with Merchant either way. Just in time for the respawn. The power play continues on forward. And up into the skies goes Borg. Going to try to mix them up with that leverage into the strike. Still not going to be able to find its way into the goal. They do manage to take out both barriers now. Fighting for that center orb. It does go to Hungry Boy, who's going to use that extra power to try to find the goal for them. But Merchant finds the strike off the boost, sets up a scoring position for Borg, and it's 2-0 for NASL or bust.
And Borg has been doing such an excellent job as well, consistently being low but not being taken off the map, positioning himself in the middle of that map so well, which makes it so difficult to find a proper KO angle, and still continues to be a threat up front, even on low HP, as again being put down into stagger, but still stays on the map, which just brings so much value for the side of NASL or bust here.
Definitely does. Mystic juggling it on in, trying to get it onto the last barrier. Still can't find it, but Zay taking a fair bit of damage. It's another KO. Merchant has been on point with these whammies in set number 2, and it has spelled death for Heavy Metal Gundam. They get themselves a second barrier. They get themselves another KO and a score. Merchant takes it all along with set number 2.
Excellent execution there, Merchant, as well as our first pick as well. As we have a Deadeye in here, we have Twin Drive Special. It has to be Deadeye. Oh, this actually is kind of unfortunate because you have extra special Deadeye and specialized training all in the same draft, which Merchant all wants to pick up. But the Deadeye is going to be a clear favorite here. It's also the eye off of Tragic. Tragic has to settle with the extra special, which is still very happy about taking that off of Rune, not giving those banishes over too much. Twin Drive, an excellent pickup for Borg, gonna help with survivability and damage output as the first spark finds its way into Mystic, and Zay will have to settle for the specialized training just to get some more damage on that ultimate ability.
Yeah, I mean, between Rapid Fire and Twin Drive for Borg, it's like you just always have something up on the Kazan. Certainly plenty of abilities to go here. It does get that extra size there picked up from the center point as well. Going to be really good with the top spins. Just takes both barriers by brute force alone and will be opening up the goal for their side. Mystic staggered here, though. Going to have to fall back for the time being. Borg are perfectly happy to fill in on that role. Mystic is KO'd, so it is going to be a power play here. Borg doing a good job of holding things over to the right. Merchant going to be looking to work on that as well. A nice big finish, going to knock it all the way back before Merchant can fall back in time, so they will take the second barrier there. Crater pushes it in the wrong direction. Zay finds the KO, and it's Heavy Metal Gundam back on the board.
That explosive entrance range was just enough to punish Merchant, who was hugging the wall a bit too tightly there to take the lead, as we're now going into the bouncy map with a flip available on Tragic as well. If he does need to use it defensively, he could even look to use it offensively on a map like this.
Vanish not quite going to connect there. Almost going to be able to get onto those barriers, but the reflection will in fact still be favoring the side of NASL or Bust. Zay pushed back away. Managing descent from Borg, going to be able to take Zay just a little bit lower, continuing to try to keep up that pressure, continuing to try to reflect him off the map. But in the meantime, the rest of the team are taking barriers. Finally, the power play is secured for Bust. But what can they do with that time? Borg going to be staggered in his own right, trying to push it past Tragic. Nice defense from Tragic, though, holding on for so long. They do take one barrier at the end of the day, but now the respawns come through. Borg is staggered. The goal is open, and a big opportunity for Hungry Boy and Zay. Piercing shot pushes it up towards the top. Borg going to be pushed towards the bottom. Merchant trying to take it back away, but it gets snagged by the big finish out of Tragic, who will keep that pressure on. Borg still in the middle of everything. Reflects it back over to Mystic. Nearly gets taken out, and the Crystal Thorns will be the end of it, but the bounce! Playing pinball with the characters here as it's 2 versus 2 on the map.
2 and 2 as Merchant has to go for that dash and flip to save, as Mystic is almost about to be taken out as well, but a nice piercing shot set up from Hungry Boy will secure the point for the side of Heavy Metal Gundam here. I do want to point out as well, Borg is doing such a good job at staying alive, which brings the value at just continuously eating cooldowns off the side of Heavy Metal Gundam. They're not going to have those cooldowns anymore to use for the core or damage onto like Mystic or Merchant, because they're just continuously trying to take out Borg. But you can see it again, abilities being used back to back continuously, and Borg does not fall.
Neither does Zay. Both of these brawlers find themselves nearly taken out here, and with the goop on the map, that's definitely going to be a little bit of a risk here. I think that was a oh yeah, that was a KO found. I'm losing track with everybody on the blinking health bars, but that was Zay taken out. Borg going to join him now. 3 seconds to go until that power play will be back to the side of Heavy Metal Gundam. Here comes Zay. Banish going to connect on through, trying to buy them that additional time. Merchant loses a big chunk of HP. Zay now getting involved, but Borg has respawn. Going to use that top spin to try to create some space. Not able to take control of the core, though. In with the Oni's Blade goes Zay. Good damage off that Stinger. Manages to take Merchant off the map. And now an opportunity for another 3-0. The full ace secured by Tragic, and Heavy Metal Gundam will keep the streak going. 3-0 for HMG, 3-0 for Bust, 3-0 for HMG right back.
The momentum is just so incredibly valuable as both teams are just playing off of it perfectly, and we go into this draft. 1-2 punch, High Value Awakening for Zintaro, missile propulsion being insanely huge for Merchant as well. So we'll see where the priorities are going to lie. The Adrenaline Rush actually being picked up for Zay, which does make sense when you find a KO that's going to do so much for you. But the missile propulsion, definitely an Awakening to be afraid of if you are inside of Heavy Metal Gundam, as Merchant's going to do so much damage on this Luna. 1-2 punch, just again, more damage. Size for the Kazan. The Monumentalist for Finii is gonna do so much more damage. Again, it just damage central. It just turning into like an arms race of like who can just take out the enemy team faster, and that's the team that's gonna find the 3-0 in the set.
And that's where Mystic may have found the life hack here with the recovery drone, because Borg has been staying alive for so long. So as long as Mystic can prevent his own death, maybe that'll be the recipe here. Based on the pattern we've been watching, we're expecting a 3-0 for Bust here, and they might just start it off. Nearly going to be able to find their way into the score. A really well-placed anomaly from Mystic was nearly the end of it, but they will be able to hold on for the time being. Now Borg waiting for the core. Merchant not quite able to connect onto it with the boost. Nice piercing shot from Hungry Boy. Will be able to clear things out. Borg going to be taken very low. Will be able to get the orbit time to be able to keep his health type on off for as long as possible. Zay dashing through, finds the barrier. Hungry Boy sending it down, banished away. Double banish for Mystic. Manages to save what could have been a score, but will they be able to turn it back into their side? Borg gets some good damage on a cross. Hungry Boy passes it on down. Borg with the unfortunate ricochet sends it through the center and right back in through his own goalie's legs.
The core does find its way into the net, and Hungry Boy has a flip now as well as we're going into the bouncy map. Gonna be a lot of chaos on this, added to the fact that again just damage is being dumped directly off a kickoff. Mystic and Borg down to half HP. Sage is doing so much damage on the Centauro pick. And the Hungry Boy is not being a slouch either, as Mystic is down to being put into basically 1 HP again on 0 of 8 as well. Damage is not slowing down in the slightest.
That's certainly tough for him here. Borg in the center, trying to fight for it, taken low on a stagger, trying to get in towards that last barrier. It's one down a piece, and Borg going to be KO'd. There is the adrenaline rush for Zay. KO found on the opposite side, though, by Mystic. He'll be able to try to keep things even at 2-2. Merchant trying to get involved, can't quite get the angle on towards the barrier, the big finish. Going to keep things pushed over towards the left, the power play now. Very brief for NASL or Bust. Zay forever, taken low, not going to fall. Maddening descent on through. Hungry Boy nearly taken in off the top. Mystic not going to be able to get any more. And it will be Merchant falling lower and lower to the damage of Zay and Hungry Boy. Got to be careful about getting taken out. They do manage to find a barrier on the opposite side. Open goal now for NASL or Bust. Will they be able to find their first non-perfect series of the set, or of the game, rather? Going to see if they can find themselves a goal, but nope, it will not come on through. Well-positioned, a piercing shot from Hungry Boy will get it into the goal.
The damage that they're dumping onto Merchant is just so difficult for him to be dealing with, right? Because Luna doesn't have a lot of great tools to just be avoiding damage like that, so you need to make use of your evades, and those evades are very limited as well. So if you have Zay or Hungry Boy on top of you continuously just using abilities like that, it's just going to turn really difficult for Merchant, even though he's been playing it so well. As now Mystic again down to stagger.
Yeah, series point here for Heavy Metal Gundam. An opportunity to move on to winners round 2 to knock down NASL or Bust in an upset on seed. Will they be able to do it right here, right now? Rough start in this third point. They do find themselves with 2 members incredibly low. Mystic on the stagger. Borg taking control. Big finish. Going to buy themselves some additional time with that barrier, and dipping in and out of the vents is Zay, trying to keep himself hidden. Borg nearly going to get taken out here. Big damage on a cross from the piercing shot. Takes him into the stagger. Double banish from Mystic. Opens up a route on towards that second barrier. And the goal is now open and available. Zay looking for the KO. Can't quite find it. But the goal's opened up by Hungry Boy on the opposite side. Top spin onto Zay. Just trying to stagger him back. Trying to prevent him from getting the scoring angle. Triple take pushes it back over towards Merchant. The shot from Tragic connects. And it will be a 3-0. 3-3-0 sets for Heavy Metal Gundam to move on to winners round 2. They win the series.
The damage in the end just was too much, as Zay was all over the place, just being such an incredible nuisance to deal with, and just making use of that Centauro so excellently, as all of these sets were so incredibly lopsided, and you can see it in the KOs, how heavy these KOs were in this game as well. 15 KOs off of the side of Heavy Metal Gundam, and 12 KOs off of the side of NASL or Bust. Very, very energetic game if it comes to KOs.
Oh boy, yeah, I mean, that was crazy. 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0 over 4 series going back and forth between these two teams. And at the end of the day, it is going to be a win for Heavy Metal Gundam. What a big comeback series from them, having dropped in game number 1, winning 2 in a row for the reverse sweep, and now moving on towards winners round 2.
Yeah, and winners round 2 is where it's gonna be at, right? You've won your first round now. You got that first step of the liftoff to try to make your way into landing, but you gotta keep on that energy, you gotta keep on performing, and Heavy Metal Gundams are hopefully gonna be holding that kind of momentum as they go into the next round. NASL or Bus going down into the first loser side. I think this is triple elimination, right? So not a great
Correct.
start for them specifically. However, nothing's over yet. They can keep on playing, and with the way that how they have been playing, there's no doubt in my mind either that they're going to have a great run today.
Yeah, NASL or Bus moving on to face Wee's Little Furrets in lower round 1, whereas Heavy Metal Gundam will move on to face Atlas's Diversified Resume in winners round 2. We are going to check on out our next match shortly, looking like it is going to be Flying Bobos taking on Starbreakers, who were able to come away with an upset in their round number 1 up against Polar Cortex. So sure to be a good match. We're going to throw it to a quick break before we get onto that, though, so stay tuned, everybody. We will be back in just a few short moments.